Have you ever loved something so much that you just want to make it happen every day? Me neither. This is a podcast a day. A podcast a day. Another day, another pod, another film. Today's film, Dunkirk. And straight off the bat, I just want to give you the worst news, the most terrible news that you could possibly hear if you listen to last yesterday's episode, which was we discovered a hidden gem of a man, of a reviewer. He went by the name of Mike. Was it Mike? Yeah, it was Mike. He went by the name of Mike Thorne. And what made this man so special is, if you didn't know, yesterday's movie was After Earth. You haven't seen it? Well done. Keep it that way. That was what we recommended yesterday. It was After Earth, starring Willard Smith and Jaden Smith. Nepotism, the movie, is pretty crap, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Now, Mike Thorne, his review of that film left me speechless for a couple seconds on audio medium where you're meant to be speaking, because I read his review and I thought it was like, satire. Is that too much of a professional word for this? I just thought it was a joke, basically. Like, it was giving it a lot of praise, but I thought it was actually just like, obviously because no one likes this film, the average rating is like a 1.7. But I think he just genuinely really liked it, and he was using long words I never heard before. It was very, he was speaking about it in a very articulate way, and I just thought, who is this man? Who is this enigma, if you will? And what really nailed it home, what really made this guy interesting, and I wanted to refer all of my future films I talk about to what Mike Thorne said about it, because when I clicked on his profile, this is all through Letterboxd, by the way. Yeah, his top four films were old artsy films, like Citizen. I don't know if Citizen. I've never seen Citizen Kane, but you know what I mean. Like traditional. If you went to film school and stuff, you like films, and it was all the movie posters of his favorite films were those. Came out in the 1940s, posters look like they're hand drawn type shit. He seems to have what you could fine taste or whatever, by the sort of cinephiles standards. But yet After Earth, also 5 stars. Duality of man. That's why I want to refer back to him. Now, unfortunately, I go on his profile, I look at films that he reviewed in 2017, and although he reviewed 89 films, or at least saw 89 films in 2017, Dunkirk was not one of them. Sorry, Christopher Nolan, he wasn't interested. And to be fair, I'm not sure what his taste is, if it's pretty broad like that, because it seems like 80% of the films he's logged in are films that came out before your parents were even born. So I'm not sure what he's looking for. His review of Dune, at least, I saw that, didn't seem like he was over the Dune about it. I hate that I said that. But anyway, we're not going to dwell too much on Mike Thorne. I understand this is a niche thing. I'm trying to make fetch happen. I'm trying to make Thorne happen, okay? But yeah, today's film is Dunkirk. If you don't know, the whole vibe is I recommend movies that I don't like. I recommend my lowest rated movies on Letterboxd because I notoriously have bad taste. And therefore, by recommending movies I don't like, there could be a chance that you do like them. Now, we're still not in deep cut films, so I haven't really recommended many films that a lot of people haven't seen. Most people have seen Dunkirk, right? Well, no, actually, no. But if you like watching movies and stuff, and you're like, Christopher Nolan's a pretty big director. I just remember I did a video on this once. And so I've seen it, and I remember calling it boring, and I just remember all the comments being like, you didn't get it, fuck this, because people get very, defensive if you don't like their thing. And, since that period in time, I've heard, people in conversation, not me in the conversation, just on the train, in the background, what are they talking about? They're ranking Nolan films. Well, okay. You see a YouTube video, someone just talks about Nolan, or in a podcast, they bring them up for 10 seconds. They go, yeah, I actually put Dunkirk in my top 3, A lot of people chucking Dunkirk up there. A lot of people saying they prefer Dunkirk to Interstellar. I know a lot of people, Interstellar's their favourite Nolan film. But a lot of people think Interstellar's maybe a little overrated. It didn't hit for them in an emotional way, apart from the scene with McConaughey crying and that. A lot of people have Dunkirk as their sleeper hit, which is crazy. To moi. So I thought maybe I'm missing something. Whenever I go back and think about it, it's a war film, so it's only going to be so high in my mind, right? But since then, maybe I've matured. I've seen something like 1917. No, that's not a film I'm going to take with me, and I'm not going to be like, oh, that's one of my new favourites. But I remember when I saw 1917, which came out, I think would have came out a couple years after that, surely, right? A few years after. Maybe when I'd adapted it slightly a little bit more. Because I watched it and I was like, this is like a good thing. I feel like now I've grown at least, not a part, my taste, I wouldn't say necessarily has changed, but I'm at a point now. I feel like I've been speaking way too fast so far. So let's just like calm down. But I feel like not necessarily my taste has changed, but now I can watch a film and go, oh, that's a good film. Like, I don't have to like it. I could sit down and watch something everyone's raving about and be like, I can see why people rate this. I think this is good. I still would never see this again or really care about it. But I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a well-made thing. I feel like now if I rewatched Dunkirk, wow. If I rewatched Dunkirk now, I reckon I'd probably like it a little bit more, yeah. And also, I'd be like, oh wait, yeah, this is good. I see why people like this now. I think at that period of time, I was like, not even sure why people liked it. So it came out in 2017, directed by Chris Nolan. And let's look at some of Chris Nolan's other films, because that's what we like to do here. I like to exploit every like possible avenue, basically, of Letterboxd. And as you know, I would say so far of all the movies we've done, Christopher Nolan's probably the one I've seen the most of so far of all of these directors. I'm just trying to think now. And I would say so. I'd say so. Because I've seen the Batman trilogy. I saw it quite late. I think it's easy to say what I haven't seen. And I haven't seen Tenet, Memento, and The Prestige. So I can't speak to those. Now, in terms of his other films, it's like I like them. The only one I really like, and would say is like up there, my top 20, top 50, I don't know, films ever, would be Interstellar. Everything else is like the Dark Knight. Yeah, it's really good. Like I like watching the Joker being the Joker, Heath Ledger, right? Inception, good concept, really good concept, you know, and it's executed well. But like, it's one of those things. Oppenheimer was really well made. I like Cillian Murphy. I like seeing Cillian Murphy use stuff on screen, like in terms of acting, not like. And anyway, you know what I mean. But I wouldn't say I'm like. I'm at Nolan's feet. You know, I'm like, you know, bowing down to the god that is Nolan. I was listening to a podcast the other day. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. It was like talking about Dune, and there was like kind of comparing Denis Villeneuve, I believe, Villeneuve, to Nolan, saying who's better, hit for hit, band for band. Who's your money on, Denis or what's his name again? That's not me putting down Christopher. Denis or Christopher? Denis or Chris, who you got, right? And it's maybe harder than you might first think. I think, because, actually, I'm not sure. I think it's just difficult. Maybe you at first thought you knew it'd be difficult. Let me not, you know, tell you what you think. But, I mean, Denis riding a high right now because he's on a hot streak, which Nolan's not on. Nolan's good, like, don't get me wrong, he's good in people's recent memory. He's literally sweeping the Oscars this year. What I mean is that before Oppenheimer, was it Tenet? Came out in 2020, yeah, it would have been Tenet, right? And then before that, what? Dunkirk, which seems to be a bit of a sleeper hit for people. Not that he took a big dip, but I think people were ready to jump off like the Nolan train all of a sudden, like straight just because of Tenet, just because it wasn't immediately great. People going like, as he lost the magic, as he lost the spark. I've still not seen Tenet, right? People were thinking that, and Denny basically hasn't got a little anomaly in his most recent run. It's been like. I'm not going to bring up his right now because my internet's shit. But I know he's had like Blade Runner. Obviously, these two Dune films. Arrival, that's the other one people always go on about and really like. Sicario. I've not seen all these films. So I don't know what they're all called. But I think it's tricky. Nolan's got a bigger catalogue, so it's harder to compare because it's not like they've both got 10 films. You know, lay them on the table. You know, pull your trousers down. Whose chopper's bigger? You know what I mean? It's like it's more difficult. Nolan's maybe got more skin in the game. But if I had to compare, like out of like Interstellar, Oppenheimer, The Dark Knight, Inception, Dunkirk, right? Compare that to Arrival, 2049, Dune. You know, where I'd put what? It's hard for me. It's tricky for me. I'd have to say, right now. If there's like, you just told me there's a new Denis project, it's got a great cast, and that's all I knew, and it's coming out next year, and then you told me there was going to be a new Nolan project coming out next year with a great cast, all I can say is right now I would be leaning Denis. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not saying who's better, because I don't know. I'm not saying who's you know, who's whatever. I'm just saying right now I'd be more interested in a Denis film than a Nolan film. But we're talking about Nolan. Can we not get distracted? I know a lot of people really like The Prestige and stuff. I've never seen it, so I can't comment on it. And honestly, today I shouldn't really be commenting on any of these films apart from Dunkirk, because that's the one we're actually talking about. So let's just get into the synopsis, if that's what it's called. Survival, I didn't pronounce that right at all. Survival is victory. The story of the miraculous evacuation of Allied soldiers from Belgium, Britain, Canada, and France who were cut off and surrounded by the German army from the beaches and harbour, you guessed it, of Dunkirk. Between May 26th and June 4th, 1940, during World War Two. You know the interesting thing about things like Dunkirk? It's like a thing of history. I'm pretty sure I would have been ignorant enough to, when I first watched this film, to have thought this was just made up events. Like, we've just made up this little thing called Dunkirk. I was probably watching it that much, just sort of like glazed over eyes, not really paying attention, and I never heard of Dunkirk before. And I feel like anything, you hear something for the first time and then all of a sudden you just hear it everywhere. And I feel like after I watched Dunkirk, I started to like hear people talk about Dunkirk or Dunkirk be referenced in films more. Like that part of your brain just kind of got switched on to be observant and notice those things. And this is like an irrelevant like alleyway to go down, but like it's just crazy because Dunkirk, the word, and people talking about that time in history wasn't actually cropping up in my life any more than it was, before seeing the film. So that word, and people were talking about that thing, and that was like in the culture of life and being spoken about all around me for a long, long period of time, a lot longer period of time than my period of life I've had after it. Yeah, my brain was just ignoring it, blocking it, taking no notice. Like, there must be so many things people talk about now, things going on around the world that have gone around the world, and I just like, if someone's asked me about it right now, I wouldn't even know it ever happened or existed. And all it would take is seeing one thing like this, and then you're switched onto it and you just notice it more. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Regardless if you do or don't, it's kind of irrelevant to the point of if this film's good or not. And I think it's not. That's not really what's in debate here. We're not really debating if the film is good or not generally. We're kind of just talking about I didn't like it and therefore I'm recommending it. I mean, right here, I've given it a harsh review. I didn't review it, but I gave it 1 star. I think if I saw it again now, I definitely wouldn't give it 1 star. I feel like that's very evil. Not evil. Maybe I overstated how that. I'm not, But the average rating is a 3.8. I give it a 1. So yeah, it's harsh. It's harsh. I mean, it's going to be hard for me to find a rating. I mean, to give a review for this by the end, because I like to try and give a review, log it, letterbox linked somewhere. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's got, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Finn Whitehead. Like him as an actor. Got Tom Hardy in it. Mark Rylance is in this. Did I even see this film? Because I don't remember that these people were in it. I mean, it's got a cast I actually really like here. I think it's pronounced Whitehead. Tom Hardy's great. Mark Rylance. I want to say the first time I saw him in something was Bones and All. You can tell I only recently started watching shit which wasn't just superhero films. Barry Keoghan's in it. Harry Styles is like a movie. He's in it, which is really interesting to me that like Harry Styles, he takes this role, not a lead, just like literally playing like one of the people painting the background. I mean, he has like a couple lines maybe, but like, and Nolan takes him on for it. But like Nolan is kind of like that. Like when you look at the cast of Oppenheimer, you got like Roderick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Like you got like a couple. You got Josh Peck, for Drake and Josh. He's done other stuff since then, but Josh Peck. It's like he does do that sometimes. Like he'll take these like little faces on, and I wonder if it is just like if that's a side of him that's like, yeah, I care about the craft and I don't want everything to be CGI and this and that, and I just make it for the story. But I also want to choose these little things, if anything, that's going to give the film a bit of a monetary, how you ever say it, right? A little boost. That's maybe why he goes for it. If he understands people talking about things online, people making memes and stuff, I get this person in, that person in, that might help it. Or if he genuinely just like finds these people or just watched a niche TV shows growing. Like, I don't know why, but he does that quite a lot. Little niche actor in here and there, which you recognize from that thing 10 years ago or whatever. Kenneth Branagh. So yeah, it's got quite a stacked cast. And let's read some of the top reviews. Because it's hard for me to say why I didn't like it. I think it was just I watched it was a war film. Like the scenes from the trailer is all I remember really about it. Like I remember them all bracing on the sand. I remember Tom Hardy standing in front of like a plane that's on fire at the end. They're all inside this like thing underwater and it's getting filled up. They're all gonna die. Barry Keoghan's being he's being himself, being a bit of like a little creep weirdo kind of guy. Not like a weirdo, but he kind of just has it about him. He's on the boat. He saves Cillian Murphy. It's weird. It's like I was watching Hamilton the other day. I watched it on Disney Plus, right? And it's like I was watching it and I was like, oh my god, you ended up being famous. Oh my god, you ended up being, and it was already doing well in their career. They were in this Broadway play or whatever. But I was like, oh, you ended up doing all of this and this. You ended up being in this and this. Ariana DeBose is in Hamilton as just ensemble, like in part of like the chorus ensemble, whatever, like dancing. I think she does like one word, one line or whatever. And it's like you then get she's won an Oscar, right? Pretty soon after that, and it's like when you watch something, you either are unaware of the actors in it because you're just not tapped into the other things they're in, or you just don't know who these actors are, and then you go back and watch something which you don't remember having like a stacked cast because at the time when you first watched it they weren't huge yet, or you didn't know the stuff they was in, and you go back and watch it and all of a sudden you're like, well, what? You're in this? You're in this? That's what I have kind of with Dunkirk. It's like, this was only 2017. I should know more of the people in this. But like now when I go back and think, wait, that was Cillian Murphy. Like when I first watched this, I didn't like now Cillian Murphy's probably one of my favorite actors. I've only recently started watching like Peaky Blinders and stuff and like, his shit basically. And it's like I vividly remember the first time watching this, he's just been more or less blank faces that I didn't recognize all of them. And now when I actually think about it and I put faces to all of these like scenes that I remember, it's like, wait, you were that guy. You were that guy. I actually do have a kind of an urge to go back and watch this. This is kind of going against the sort of theme of what this is, which is shitting on films. But let's read some reviews. Some of these are pretty weird, and they're obviously in jokes for the film, which I don't get. So I have to like kind of pre-read them and skip over them because I don't know what people are getting at. Here we got one. 3 stars. Interesting. So far, there's the 3 most popular reviews. All 3 stars. I thought they'd be a little bit higher than that, but let's see. This one says, this movie stressed me the fuck out. I was on edge 80% of the time. If it weren't for Harry Styles making me go, Lamal, that's Harry Styles, to diffuse the tension every 10 minutes, I would have popped a fucking blood vessel. So thank you, Harry Styles. 3 stars. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would read that review and think that's a review for like a 4-star review at least, but these people are harsh, man. This next one says, Christopher Nolan, can I have 100 more of these dark-haired British twinks? Okay. Does anyone want to give me a review? Does anyone want to give me a review? God, this movie is bigger than my whole existence. Probably one of Nolan's weaker films, but the acting performances are amazing. By the way, this person gave it a 4-star. Probably one of Nolan's weaker performances. One of Nolan's weaker films, but the acting's pretty good. 4-star. This other person writes, this film stressed me out. It changed my life. I feel like, I had, an epiphany in there, and it sort of opened my eyes, and it took me through, and I felt like my soul and my being left my body, and I sort of beamed out of the earth, and I sort of shot out of myself, and I zoomed out, and I saw the earth, and I was sort of in space floating, looking around, and then I heard a voice. It was my mother. It was my mother as a child. She was whispered to me. She said, "Come home, Matt. Come home." And I zipped back into my body, and I had a new sense of life and freedom. 2 stars. And it's like crazy. Some people, it's crazy. This one's in Spanish, but I assume it says something along the lines of, this film was pretty good. I got to give it a rating now. I got to find something to say about it. I don't know what I'm going to say. Review or log. What should I say? This film, Christopher Nolan. I might just not try and be clever. I might just go for something real as my review, which is I'd probably like this if I watched it again, or something along those lines, but maybe a bit better. Dunkirk, 2017. I only knew Harry Styles when I first watched this. I might go with a review like that, just to show the sort of how whatever the opposite of tapped in was. I was like the complete opposite whenever I first watched this. So that's my review of Dunkirk. Maybe I'll rewatch it one day. It's very unlikely. I've got new shit to see. New stuff's coming out all the time. How can I rewatch? You got to go forward. I don't even rewatch films I like, really, let alone films I don't like, let alone films I'm unsure about. But, maybe. Podcast today. We do a podcast every single day. We talk about a different film every single day. Dunkirk was today's one. I'll see you tomorrow.